Folks, hello and welcome to the Gamers Health Livestream. I am Rach Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, and with me, as always on a Saturday night, is my
Hello.
lovely wife, Rachel. So, I guess we will start with the open secret. I've posted about this, I've mentioned it, but and if you saw yesterday's live stream with Joe Loy and the rest of the miscreants, besides the internet outage that we were suffering, I spent a full day plus overtime, as I would look at it, at
Mm.
St. Francis Hospital yesterday. So what the long story short is, I had a cardiac PET exam. Shadow, welcome. I had a cardiac PET exam a couple of weeks back, and there was under stress. Uh, Something that came up on the exam that my cardiologist was like, 50% chance it's nothing, 50% chance it's something. Bless you.
Thank you.
So let's have an angiogram done. All right. So now it could have been done that same freaking week. I wasn't ready for it.
Mhm.
There's something about having any kind of medical procedure done that you kind of have to
Prepare
prepare
yourself.
yourself for, or have no preparation for, right? You're going in 10 minutes is one of those, like, okay, well, I had no preparation
Okay.
for
Yeah.
it. So, in any case, um, I had my pre-op on Tuesday, and all I knew was that, hey, you'll get a call Thursday giving you your time frame. And I do these live streams. I'm like, oh, well, what's it going to be? It's going to be a little procedure. And odds are I'll know on Thursday if I'll be home in time for the 8 o'clock live stream. And sure enough, I got a 9 o'clock appointment. And already knowing how
9 a.m. then.
9 a.m. I know how these procedures tend to go. I figured I'm going to go in at 9, and
Surgery will probably you'll go in like 11, 12.
11, 12. I figured, it's always that hurry up and wait
Mhm.
shit. And that is not the case. It was wait and wait. Now, we didn't see the surgeon until, and he's a surgeon I've dealt with in the past. He's my surgeon. We didn't see him until about 2 o'clock, and we were,
After it was like 2:15.
yeah, like 2:15, 2 o'clock. We were told. I heard the doctor's nearby. And what had happened is that the prior procedure that he was doing with the angiogram wound up being a lot more complicated, a lot more intensive than he had thought it would be, and it took a lot of time. The end results, the important results are. Because I asked him, "Did everything go okay?" He goes, it went perfect." All right, he's got a German accent. It's not horribly strong, but you kind of go, "Where the
I'm
hell?"
from Brooklyn, he said.
Yeah, he says he's from Brooklyn. In any case, um, so I go under the knife. And they take me just around 3 o'clock. And the doctor told us, by the way, Rach was with me. By the way, this is how you know that COVID is lessening. You can actually
Yes, you can have a visitor.
have a visitor be with you in the pre-op and the
Mhm.
post-op. I can't stress you how important that is when you're the one stressing out, to have somebody that can hold your hand and be a little bit less with the stress.
Yeah.
God help. So, in any case, and that's a lot of stress. Extra time waiting is always extra time for the stress. Maybe I gained a few more gray hairs. I don't think I can gain any more. I think I'm pretty well set. So, go in, and you're dealing with a well-oiled machine. I recognize the lead nurse, very vocal, very loud, and in your face. And she's like, "I hope you like rock music," because the doctor likes classic rock. And he had classic rock playing. This is what he does his procedures towards. And I was like, okay, all right, that's pretty
That
damn cool.
works.
Pretty cool. So I had something I could like listen to and focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor told us, I don't expect much of anything. I don't expect much of anything. A lot of these times, these PET exams are wrong. I looked at it, and he goes, you know, maybe it's nothing. If it is, I take a few photos. You're done in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something, I'll fix it. Very confident. Again, excellent doctor. So now I'm under the knife. They first tried going in through the wrist. You can see that, but that didn't work. So I had to go in through the glun, And that worked, but going into your groin, I don't think anybody wants that. But he tried going into the wrist. It wasn't working. But that would have allowed me to get out earlier and less recovery time. So I'm realizing it's not going as planned. If you're lying down there, because by the way, my shoulder was killing me with stenosis. I started fidgeting, and he's like, you can move. Just, I can work around it. Confident doctor. So, because it was taking longer than the 20 or 30 minutes. And then I heard them calling out numbers, and the numbers are the sizes of the stents. I've learned this from past procedures. And I heard them call out one, and I was like, it's like a 7-9 or whatever the heck it was. And I was like, all right, I guess they found a blockage. All right, cool. And then I hear them calling out another number. It's like a much larger number. And I hear the one nurse, and I know this nurse is the new nurse in the unit because they were kind of giving her little problems, and playing little jokes on her in the beginning as we're getting set up. They were not quite harassing, but you know what I'm saying. And she questioned the size, and he's actually like, "Yep, that's what I need." I went, "What the hell are we talking about?" And then a little bit more than I hear. Okay, the lead is out, or something to that effect. That means, I guess, the surgical machine was leaving the body. And then my doctor's like, all right, we have to close up the groin, single stitch. And he goes, all right, Eric. And he got more serious. He goes, just so you know, there was a blockage. That one stent was blocked. We popped it and cleared it. I'm like, okay. But he goes, your left main artery was 70% blocked. And I was like, So we sent it that too, and that's completely cleared because that was unexpected. Oh my God.
See, when he was explaining it to me, I didn't understand that. I thought it was a stent that you had already.
He did that.
Yes, but a stent that you had already in the left main artery.
I did not.
And you hadn't had one there.
Did not. So that was.
So he just stuck another one in there.
That's the bigger number because it's the left main artery. I guess it's a thicker artery to deal with. And then he said, I may not take an exact quote, but the language used is the language used. He goes, but it went fucking awesome. You're good. He was excited because they found a problem that did not show up on the PET scan that was undetected. My body was compensating for. But the problem with your body compensating for this stuff, and I'm not complaining about it, but the problem is that a lot of these issues can go undetected until they become an issue. I had no symptoms. I had no congestive heart failure, no retaining water, no shortness of breath. My numbers were good, whether it was the BNP number, which was 49.5, and my ejection fraction, which when I first went in for heart failure was at 15%. Now, when I left the hospital with 4 stents, it was at 35%. And then through diet and exercise, we got it up to 44, 46%. That's with a 70% blockage in my left main artery. So my hope is that next time I do a sonogram, a sono of the heart, we're seeing like 50% or something like that. So I am excited, but it's just another part of the puzzle that is my health, because all these things that have happened to me or a lot of these events are events that brought things to the attention to the doctor that they didn't know about, which I find to be very interesting. When I had the left carotid artery, when that was found to be blocked, it's because I went in because I fainted at lunch at our local pub. And I fainted not because I had heart issue. My fainting was from low blood sugar and dehydration. And the cardiologist came back and told me 2 days after I was admitted, he goes, yeah, you were right. But because I was admitted, they did a sonogram, and the sono of my neck revealed it. So it's weird how one thing can be the issue. In this case, one of my stents, which, by the way, the doctor said your heart had totally compensated for that. That block stent was actually not an issue, but was enough of an issue to show up on a PET scan to have to go in to correct something that wasn't really in dire need of correction, to find something that could have been potentially much larger. So I consider myself duly blessed. So now, then they sent me to the initial post-op recovery, where they got a lot of, they had 4 nurses managing 6 patients for that first hour. They keep an eye on Evil Cheese. Welcome. They keep an eye on people that are recently out from a procedure to make sure before moving them back to a hospital room or the post-op recovery area. Yes, my squeezing arm. I'm just gonna call you MSA for the rest of the night. I am very lucky, but I have been very lucky with all this, and I'm making my own luck now. Okay, I am eating better. I am exercising. I am doing conscious activities to watch my blood sugar, to watch my food intake. These are actions that will, I guess, if you're talking from a gaming perspective, right, it gives you adds to your saving throw. You're putting yourself in a stronger position if something should go wrong to cope with it. And I was not in a strong position when all this shit initially went down. And that's was explained to me by my heart failure specialist. The best thing that happened to me, which means the best thing that happened to us, is I had pneumonia. I got that. I came down with an upper respiratory infection at TotalCon in 2020. It progressed to pneumonia. I got hospitalized for pneumonia, and the hospitalization for pneumonia progressed to heart failure, and if congestive heart failure. And if I hadn't had the congestive heart failure, my heart was already severely damaged from radiation 15 years ago. And what happened is that having the symptoms, the water retention, and everything else that I had, and going in for that was correctable. But likely, if it hadn't happened that way, what would have happened is, explained to me, one day I just simply would not have woken up. Because my heart was compensating. But it probably, again, I have a body that, thank God, doesn't know how to say no. But the problem is, it's like, we're not going to admit that we have any problem. No problem. Oh, shit. And then you go into that oh, shit mode. I'm thankfully, I had other issues that brought it to the oh, shit mode before the oh, shit mode was terminal.
Yeah.
Basically. I hate to flat out say shit like that, but
it's true.
It's true. I am very blessed. I understand that. But like I said, you can, to some extent, make your own blessings. Shadow, thank you for listen. I appreciate you were a little worried yesterday. I was worried yesterday. I was worried the whole week leading up.
Yeah.
I'm very skilled at putting things to the side, but the next, once I get that 2 to 3, once actually, I think on Tuesday when I went to pre-op, and they did, then it became like,
it started to get real. This is really gonna happen.
Yeah, this shit's this shit's legit. But it's amazing what they can do and still get you out. I was picked up by my son around 7:20 yesterday. If Chris, if you watch this later, God bless you, kid.
Yes.
He took Rach and I there. Then later on the day, he picked up my niece, brought her back to the house, came back out, picked me up with my niece in the car, which is nothing more beautiful than be picked up by your son and your niece. And
making fun of you coming out in a wheelchair.
They insisted they had to wheel me to the car. Oh, Jesus. You know. MSA, you can think of it as good karma for protecting and serving. Thank you.
Nice.
Honestly,
I like that.
You know, I've mentioned this in the past, but the full frame of events here is serving on 9/11. I was down at City Hall Park when the towers came down. I served down there many days over the next couple of months. Was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma about Oh God, 2006, I guess. So 16 years ago, and the Hodgkin's lymphoma was related to my exposure at the 9/11 site. Treatment for Hodgkin's included a cocktail of, I believe it's 4 poisons.
Yeah.
Can't remember the names for them anymore, but it's 4 poisons. One could harm your lungs. One could harm your heart. I handled the poisons so well. I was told I would lose my hair. I never did. I lost everything but the hair on top of my head. Not going to go into details, but I lost the rest of my body hair, including my eyelashes and eyebrows, were gone. But here it stayed. So, so in that case, we opted on my oncologist's recommendation to go with radiation, with the radiation oncologist. And the thing with the radiation, and they were honest at the time. Again, radiation is likely to mean you are going to punt problems into the future. I was told you're looking probably 15 to 20 years where you are going to have some effects from this radiation. Lo and behold, what happens? When does my congestive heart failure pop up? When does the stenosis of my shoulder pop up? But you play the cards that you're given. You play the best hand you can play, and now I know what my cards are. Right, knowing the cards that you're dealt is half the battle in life. Many of us spend our life not looking at the cards that we have in our hand or pretending.
Trying to imagine that we have different cards.
I don't have these cards. That's somebody else's hand. How the fuck did that get into my hand? There's no way that's mine. But when you know what your cards are, when I knew I had a completely blocked, occluded jugular, one of 2 jugulars, right?
Is it jugular?
Yeah, it's the jugular.
Not the carotid.
Oh, carotid. Sorry, you're right. Carotid. My bad. Thank you for correcting me. Sorry, my carotid. I'm losing. See you moments, all right? My carotid was completely blocked. Here's the thing. All right. My body compensated. Again, it's another part of your body compensating. And I was dealing with a radiation doctor in another capacity, and we talked about what happened. And he said in his career, he's read of cases where the body has compensated to the point where there were no symptoms. There were no symptoms. There are no symptoms. But now it has to be monitored. But he goes, he'd never actually encountered anybody who had a totally blocked carotid, and with the rest of the arteries compensated for it effectively. It's my body seems to be good at that. I'm happy about that, but again, there's a scary level to it.
We can't take that for granted.
No, and there's a scary level to it. I had no idea I had this issue. Now, this issue means literally I have to keep my cholesterol numbers as low as one possibly fucking can, because cholesterol can clog the arteries. I've already got one main and some peripheral ones that are occluded, blocked. So you don't want to add to the problem by having cholesterol build up in your system.
Right.
So, but again, knowledge is power, right? And that's the way I look at it. I really do. I've watched the movie Powder. That's a hairless quote in there. All right. So if you've ever seen a cop movie or a realistic cop TV show, you know there's a lot of ball busting going on. And we saw the movie. We had an individual in our unit. She was a very, very good police officer. She was trained as an EMT, but she had a medical condition that she had to keep her face made up because her skin color otherwise was not a healthy one. So,
what do you mean?
She had like blotches and stuff.
Oh yeah, we had a parole officer. Not me personally, but at work we dealt with a parole officer who had similar exposure. She was African American.
This one was,
and she had
Anglo.
Very dark,
and then some white spots,
and then a bunch of different white spots, and you see it on her arms.
Yeah. So
powder, right?
Yeah, well,
powder was the albino. It was about an albino boy.
Yeah. Well, in this case, this officer's nickname on the radio. We all had nicknames on the radio, but if you wanted the car where she was in, it was Powder, on the air, Powder. Listen. I was Flounder, okay, and I was Flounder, and I was Flounder from a month out of the academy because I was an individual. I was a little bit older. I was 29 out of the academy. I didn't take the bullshit. I didn't like some guys with 1 or 2 years on the job telling you what to do, like they were bosses. I just tell them to, go pound sand, go fuck yourself. Ain't happening. But we came out of the academy with so much time on the books, they forced us to take vacations. I took 2 weeks off. It was great. I hadn't had time off in over a year, or close to a year. Yeah, over a year between my old job and the PD job. And lo and behold, I come back and I hear from the first officer I pass out of the parking lot, "Hey, Flounder. What's up, Flounder? Yo, Flounder." I'm like, what the hell is going on? I go in to check in at the front desk with the sergeant. The sergeant's like, "What's up?" He goes, "Hey, Flounder, welcome back from vacation." So I'm like, and then I say, it's got to be Billy. Billy had like 3 years on the job and was one of those practical jokers. I'm like, and I had told him where to stick it. So I go up to him and go, "Billy, what the fuck is going on?" He goes, "I don't know, Flounder. What do you think is going on?" I'm like, "You son of a bitch. You did this." He goes, "Hey, you earned your nickname. You got a choice now." I go, "What's my choice?" "How do you identify?" I mean, how do you identify? Do you identify as the fish in the Little Mermaid that didn't know when to shut its mouth and when to just listen? I go, or do you identify with Flounder from National Lampoons? I go, don't even finish that sentence. Don't even finish it. I goes, what? I go, this might be Animal House. This command might be Animal House. I am not that Flounder. So I was, at least, if you can call it any kind of respect, at least I was the fish from a cartoon for a kid, which was fine until I got transferred 6 months later. I report to my new command, walk up to the desk, and the sergeant looks up and goes, "Hey, Flounder, we heard you were coming." So that's the kind of job that I was on. So these jokes lasted for most of your career. So, MSA.
Such is life. Right?
Such is life. Speaking of knowing your cards, they predict soon we can affordably map our DNA genome. So basically, for a few grand, we can know things, what to look out for. Crazy times we live in, and that's, you know what, that there's some good to that and there's some bad to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here's the thing: you're mapping out your genome, so you're mapping out probabilities. But just because you can go, "Oh, I have a 30% chance to carry, to be carrying a gene that can make me," I don't know what the disease is you want to talk about, but if you're somebody that's not going to be proactive with that knowledge and go, "All right, what do I do to decrease my risk factor, right? What do I do to increase my odds of a healthy life?" And instead you look at it and you go, "Oh my God, I got a 30% chance of having a disease that makes my penis fall off." If that's all you're going to do with that, that is not helping you any. There are people out there, you all know them, that are going to give them information like that, and they don't use it and say, "How can I use this to improve my life?" They use this to I'm going to worry about stuff. Well, if
they use it to worry or sort of count themselves out of kind of having a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an excuse. Joe, welcome to the chat. Joe Block. Evil Cheese, at 9/11, I was 30. I went back to the Marines. New York City paid me my PD salary to go for that year, so I lucked out. Yeah, I was, I came from the 4-1 precinct. Long story short, at the time I was assigned as the CompStat / mapping officer / crime trends cop. That was my job. I did the maps. I kept the crime board updated. And I drove my CO a lot because I worked out of his office. The command had no fucking room for anything. So I worked out of his office. I would get to hear the conversations that I would try to walk out on, and he'd make me stay because I had a sprog. I want a fucking witness for this conversation. I'm like, I don't want that job. So what happened on 9/11? That was a Tuesday. That was the day I mapped, right? And I'm pounding out the maps, and TV is on in my CO's office, right across from me, because the first tower had been hit, and I'm just listening in the background, and then I hear oh my, another plane has hit the towers. I heard that. I got up, poked my head out the door to find my sergeant. She was standing right around the corner. I said, Michelle, we got to sit up. We're going down. And then literally 5 seconds after I said that, it came over the speakers. All admin personnel stood up. So I was part of the 8-1 that went down initially. And I drove the van down. And I will say this. I understand now as an older person how people just short of their retirement may act in a way that you wouldn't expect from an officer, where they go into the panic mode of, I'm retiring in 6 months. I've already moved my family out of state. I can't die here. Vast majority of the officers that I worked with that day stepped up to the plate. And I still remember stepping. I saw the tower. I saw Tower 2 to the shake. We were literally parked on the sidewalk at City Hall. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my fucking God. I don't know what I said. I was told what I said. I don't remember saying it. I was told. And I felt the van shake before I heard anything. And then I turned to my sergeant, Michelle. We were good friends. And I said, Michelle, what are we going to do? And she turned back to me. She goes, we're Bronx cops. What do you think we're going to do? I just smiled and said, we're going to yell at people. Yeah, the Bronx. We're going to yell at people and hit them with nightsticks. She goes, exactly. And when we hit people with nightsticks, I'm not saying you whack them over the head, but you hit them in the back of the leg to get them out of the shock they were in and just tell them to go north. And I thought I was going to die. So I consider every day past 9/11, gift of time. I went into that moment with the idea of I'm not going to die running or fleeing. I'm going to die, if I'm going to die, doing the jobs I was hired for, and do it to make sure people live. God didn't take me that day. He did take a good friend of mine. Didn't take me. Didn't take other friends of mine that were down there and working in the buildings. God bless. But it certainly shaped my mind and framed my mind going forward. And sometimes you see that and you live through it. And part of what I told myself to get beyond that was, if we have another 9/11, and the belief was amongst many of the cops that we were going to have another 9/11, right? You live through it. How can you not live through it again? I was like, if we have another one, I will do what I need to do. I will do my job until the emergency is over, and then I'll move on to another career, because I'm not doing this a third time. Thank God it never came down to it. But MSA, sorry for making you all feel low, but 9/11 for me meant I couldn't go to Pop Warner football after. Thank you all for how to handle the emergency. My son, Chris, he was living with his mother at the time, and I was no longer dating his mother, and but we were still being friends. And Chris, I wish I still had it. I don't know if he kept it. I doubt it. He had drawn a picture of a skyscraper with a force field, so and guns to shoot down planes, and he gave that. He didn't give it to me, but he showed it to me. He said, "I drew this because I was thinking of you." I'm getting old for Klimt. But, these things, you hold them. And it's part of your experience. It certainly defines me. I'm certainly proud of what I did. But at the same time, if I hadn't served on 9/11, I probably would never have had Hodgkin's. which means I probably never would have had congestive heart failure. But congestive heart failure is what caused me to drop 40 pounds. Right? I mean, it took,
right. It's picking and choosing these experiences.
Right. I mean, it is.
Isn't.
You look at the events and you go, I had no ability to impact my health when it came to cancer after 9/11, but I certainly could have impacted my health by being more focused on my health at any point in my life. I mean, after the academy, it was like, oh, fuck this shit. I have an RMP. I'm in a patrol car. I don't need to chase anybody on foot. If somebody runs off on me, I'll get them later. They're always repeat customers anyway, especially in the South Bronx. It's oh wow. Evil Cheese worked out of the 7th for the DEP police. Raceway in Yonkers.
Okay.
I know the Raceway.
Near where I lived, yeah.
Yes, the Yonkers Raceway. I remember they had their own police department, and they always seemed nice. They always seemed like Yonkers PD itself was a great police department to deal with, especially if you were an outside agency. It was a police department that remembered what it was like to be a police department, at least years after the majority of NYPD forgot. The Bronx held on to being a police department for longer than other boroughs, but it's always another experience. I must say, absolutely, self-care is most of being healthy. I know heart disease in my family, so I've been trying to do cardio and stave it off as long as possible. And here, even if you're not going to stave it off, you're going to lessen its effects. Okay.
Right. You're going to, your heart's going to have a frame of reference for what it means to function and be under stress. That's basically what we're doing. We're putting the heart under stress so that we can strengthen it.
Right. So, and you've been doing a good job about that. We've been very good about taking our walks and getting out there. Listen, I was never a runner. I wasn't even a runner in the academy. I was the guy that sounded like a freaking horse with their. But
I've never been a runner.
I'm not a runner. I'm a fighter.
I'm a walker.
Joe, Rayhawk Grodnard, Joe. You could see the smoke from my office at the time in Fairfield. My father was working in Long Island City, and he was for the phone company, and he was watching it from the window. And I was like, yeah. And of course, in that case too, worrying about stuff. Everybody I worked with had one worry that exceeded everything else. How do I let my family know I'm alive? And here was the kicker for us. None of us had cell phones that were working.
Yeah.
And then we found a cell phone on the ground. And you flipped it open, and the damn thing got a signal. And my sergeant made an executive decision. And she was like, everybody, because this is back in 2001, right? Cell phones were expensive. Minutes were expensive.
Yeah, I didn't get my cell phone until just after 9/11.
Yeah, so everybody got to make one phone call. I called my parents because I figured
first.
My parents had numbers for pretty much everybody. And my friends were already calling my parents to check up on me. And my parents were like, hey, listen, call this person, call this person, call this person. I'm alive. I'm okay. I'm not injured. Pass the phone on to the next person of the 8-1. Everybody got to make that phone call, because what is worse than what we were going through is the worrying of the people who were worrying about their loved ones and what we were going through. A lot of times worrying about somebody you care about is going to be worse than worse than what you go through. No, Evil Cheese, Chris, good to see you. Yeah, anybody who's worked as a fireman, as a corrections officer, you've worked as an EMT, which I think is an underrated job by far, and underpaid. PD, whether it's local, state, federal, another agency. These are all things that you put your life in danger for others. And I like to think that the vast majority go into the job knowing that's part of the risk.
Yes.
And they accept it. Now, some of them go into it with the idea of I'm never putting myself at risk. And I've worked with those, and they do nobody any favor. Okay. And then I've worked with some who have that full mentality of they are immortal. I had some of that, but I didn't drink all that Kool-Aid. But I drank enough of it because you have to drink a certain amount of that to do your job effectively. You have to go into the abandoned apartment where you believe your perp might have fled into, and you don't know if they're armed, and you got to go into it, and all you got is your vest, your gun, and your flashlight.
Yeah, and the Con Ed is off.
And the Con Ed is, well, if the Con Ed's off, you're probably better off. You don't want those lights above you. That's another story. But you got to have some ability to put yourself in harm's way, and at the same time, you need that little voice in your head that still whispers, "Hey, I know you're doing the right thing, but it's probably fucking stupid for the average person to do this. So why don't you take some extra precautions?" Okay? That is what I think would be the ideal person in all these circumstances, whether it's PD, FD, corrections, EMS. And again, EMS, every time I dealt with EMS on some of these really heavy, disturbing jobs, they are, in general speaking, most jurisdictions, they are paid the least of your emergency services, and they probably need to come onto that job with more education and than the rest of them, and put themselves in harm's way, often without a vest, often without. I mean, the smart ones in the South Bronx would come to the precinct and sign out a PD radio for their tour, and they did it because they wanted to be the first person in the back on a job where an officer might be injured, but they also wanted to hear about the heavy jobs, the potential jobs, before it came over their radio. So that was them thinking out of the box and a bigger picture. But it's always weird that it's not, you would think, oh, they would all do that. No, certain ones wanted nothing to do with it. On every job. Okay, when I worked retail, you had people that, this is my job. I'm not looking outside the blinders.
All right.
It's outside the blinders. I want nothing to do with it.
Very narrow scope.
And then you had people, and I was probably one of them when I worked retail in a department store, that was like, all right, well, what do you need me to do? Oh, so this day I know I work sales, but we're short stock people. Let me go to my locker, break up my T-shirt, and I'll take my tie off, and I will help unload the truck. Not a problem. Other people will be like, that's not my job. That's physical labor. Other people get paid for that. But when you're working in a retail environment, in the end, the job has to get done. You're all working for the same team.
Right. You can't make that money unless you get the stuff on the floor.
No. So it goes to other jobs. People have no idea how long we worked after 9/11, the forced overtime. I knew commands. Mine wasn't one of them. My CO fought for us. We worked a 6-day work week for the first 3 months. I knew commands that were technically understaffed. They worked 7-day work weeks. Now, your 6-day work week was a 12-hour day on paper. On paper with face-to-face relief, but that often meant that your 12-hour tour was 14 to 16 hours, and then you had to go home. And then you had to come back. But at least we had 1 day off. My 1 day off was always spent doing one thing. Would you care to guess, Rach?
Gaming.
No. Let's guess again.
Sleeping.
Sleeping is right. I would literally sleep.
Sleeping took priority over gaming?
Yeah. I would sleep good. Let me see. I would probably, if I was off Sunday, I would get up at 9 a.m. I would eat breakfast. I would stay awake till about noon. I'd nap until 6. I'd get up for a few hours and then sleep again until the morning. Because you were exhausted. It was
because you probably weren't getting any restorative sleep during the week.
You weren't getting any restorative sleep during the week, and
so your body just said, sleep.
You weren't getting any restorative sleep, and on top of that, you weren't getting any mental breaks.
Yeah.
So you were always on, and whether your assignment was going down to the pit doing site security in your own command. We had a couple of locations that were site security, uh, doing patrol, and oh, by the way, comp set responsibilities were still in effect. So I still had to do the map, the crime board, and everything else, and then squeeze other stuff in. So it was the advantage of a department like the NYPD has is that they can have officers assigned to these administrative positions that become extra manpower when you have these emergencies. Small departments don't have those options. What you have on patrol is what you have on patrol. NYPD was different. Let's see. We were in New York City. We used to call them the watershed police. It was like a New York City secret. New York City pay. We got the police upstate. Yep. I remember driving my CO, again, the Irishman, and he had to deal with the DEC watershed captain. The Bronx had some issue that was going on with the DEP police department, and the borough chief assigned my CO to deal with it. Don't ask me why. All I know is I got a good breakfast out of it up in Woodlawn.
Oh yeah, one of the Irish.
One of the Irish places. And
that's where I lived.
And I got to eat more too.
Really good.
I got to have almost seconds, man, because Paulie was a small guy. He didn't eat a lot. I could eat a lot, especially when it came to a good Irish breakfast.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I missed this one there. Post 9/11 school security was ramped up. This definitely had ripple effects in the future, a few generations, particularly for mental health. Now, here's something that we almost thought we were going to talk about today, but my niece came over last night, left this afternoon, but she is excited to come on one Saturday and talk about the changes now that there's no more mask mandate in schools in her school district and how it's changing. Because even she would tell you that it was harder to read other students, their intent with the mask. It made school much more depressing. So,
Yeah, and the kids were developing so even physical issues like dental issues that they hadn't seen from holding their face in a different way.
Oh yeah, you're right.
While wearing the mask.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And let's say there's people who run and people you run from. Tenkars are in the second group. Only if you piss us off, dude. Okay. And by the way, just so you all know, if you've watched us on video, if you watched me on video, who you see here is the exact person that you're going to see at a convention.
Yeah.
There's no difference. There's no attitude. There's no, well, look, I'm Tenkar. You should all. I go to convention. I go to conventions for one main reason: to socialize. I'm not. Do I play games? Sure. That's not why I go. I go to spend time with gamers and people in the community and reconnect with friendships because there's a lot that's visual to a friendship. That's about meet space and not just virtual space. Things like this, doing these videos is a great supplement and to some extent a substitute, but it's kind of like, unless you can find a really good artificial sweetener, it's still an artificial sweetener. Maybe it doesn't have any carbs. So in this case, it doesn't require us to take a flight and meet out in like Texas, but it's not the same, right? We haven't gotten quite to that point where you can have these virtual meetups, whatever, and have it still fulfill it. It's getting better. And we've learned that through COVID.
Yeah.
And the world of COVID. Evil Chief, and I came back from the overseas to do one more year in New York City, and then I had enough. Came back to North Carolina and took a job here. Listen, I can understand that, and New York City is by far an acquired taste. Okay, for me, and listen, right before COVID struck, literally right before COVID, Rachel and I had put an offer down on a house up in the Poconos.
Which was for, weekends and.
But the idea was it could be full time.
Yes.
That was the idea, and then COVID struck, and then it became, well, listen, all my doctors are out here in like New York City or
we're connected to really good care that you can't find in more desolate areas.
Yeah, I mean, I need to literally credit my doctors with saving my life and helping me continue to improve my life and to keep myself going. I mean, my heart failure specialist promised my wife what was it, another 48 years with me.
Yes.
Oh my God, you don't know
We'll
what
hold him to that.
Yeah, but these are things that there are people that have the mindset that, oh, well, I'm on medication, so I don't have to put any effort into this, right? The medication.
That it's only the medication that is reducing the cholesterol, say, for example. Medication helps, but also changes that we make.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It's a combination of the two, but medication on its own, just like you used to always hear, oh, you can get this wonder pill and lose weight. No, you can't get this wonder pill and lose weight. Not if you continue eating the way you're eating. It doesn't work that way. Not if you don't include some exercise.
I mean, I love these things. You can lay up on the couch and lose weight. I was like, well, it hasn't worked in all these years. Why would it start working now?
This is all a combination. It's all you working with your doctors with the medication. You got to take the medication. God bless. Friend of ours, older, did not take their medication for their heart, and then came out with heart problems. So they already had heart problems.
They just became more severe.
Severe.
He passed due to them pretty much.
And in those cases, you have to wonder to some extent, was this the idea of, what, I'm done, this is how I want to go? I don't know. But I'm always I'm a fighter. Okay? Just the nature of, that's why Rachel and I get along so well. We don't fight with each other. No. But I am a fighter by nature and by nurture. Becoming a cop certainly enhanced what was already my attitude. And I'm not in your face necessarily unless you get in my face. All right. But I spent my time, last half of my career as a supervisor in internal affairs. Went there because they needed somebody who could do crime stats or misconduct and corruption stats. And I had a good record for doing it from other commands. So then I got there and it was banker's hours and my son's mother passed. And all of a sudden I was a parent to an angry young man. And it's 14 years ago. Gee. But, things put you into the position that you need to be in. I figured I'd go do my commitment because if you're in the NYPD and you want to go investigative as a supervisor, you got to give 2 years minimum to internal affairs. So I figured I'll do it and I'll leave. And then it's like, oh, I can go elsewhere. I'm not going to get Monday through Friday weekends off, working days.
Right.
So,
certain trade-offs that we make.
Right. But it put me in a position where I could look at people like Gail Gygax and her, not going to say whether her, there's words I just don't want to use. I'm going to say her improper management of the Gygax Memorial Fund, showing nothing after 10 years of this. That was brought to my attention by a friend of mine who was at the time very well connected to the industry. People like Ken Whitman. These are things that you need an investigative background to be able to sometimes get a little bit deeper into these things, and I did that. It came naturally because I didn't like cops that preyed on other cops, let alone the public, and I don't like people that prey upon my community. My community, and there's always this element and they're on one of the extremes, and I'm not going to say which extreme, but they always say it's not a community. OSR is not a community. Gaming is not a community. It's a common interest. If it's a community, if when you are in need of help, people come to help you. If you have healthcare expenses, people will go and go, hey, listen.
Common interest is only one element of a community.
Right. The common interest might be what you all
that's
share
what brings
in
you
common.
to the table, but then there's other elements that go into the community that are there for many different people. Oh, that would be interesting to kind of research, like what pulled people into gaming, or what their experience of the gaming community is and what they take from it.
I did not say it's not a community. I mean, listen, Tenkar's Tavern has a community, but that's just part of the larger OSR community, which is just part of the larger gaming community. These are these Venn diagrams that all interact and overlap, and one might be fully consumed by the other, but they're all there. They all exist. To pretend they don't is foolishness. And yes, Rory Dolan's. I haven't been to Rory's.
Yeah.
Did we ever go to Rory's together, Rach?
Yes.
We did. So that'll be the last time we went to Rory's. I have not been to Rory's. That's got to be about, 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rory Dolan's, Rambling House, the Bar-Run.
Which is the one that I almost got my ass kicked in for?
And the Bar-Run.
Oh, the Bar-Run. Oh. When not to say anything bad about.
You never got to the Hibernian. You never got.
I think
down.
I think after that incident,
down Kimball Avenue towards the other.
I think after that incident, we stopped hitting so many locations.
Yeah.
3 angry Irish men. I think it was 3 fighting amongst themselves, drunk off their ass, young guys. And I'm just going to Rach, go, listen, I think we got to leave soon. And then I hear, "Oi! What county are you from?"
Oh, God.
And I turn and go, "What? Oi! What county are you from?" I'm like, there's no good answer to that because I'm not from any county in Ireland. And any county I say from Ireland, if I go for like Donegal, my captain's county, it's like, I'm going to get my ass kicked. If I say anything else, I'm going to get my ass kicked. So it's like.
Right.
So
they will.
Yeah. So I went, Queens County.
They'd be like, "You Donegal bastard."
Yeah, I go, Queens County. And they look at each other. Oi!
Oh, that's fucking funny.
No. They go, "Oi, where the fuck is that?" I go, "It's right next to Kings County."
Oh, yeah.
And on the other side is Nassau County. "Oi, that's fucking funny." Came over, so I'm like, we gotta leave.
They all start hanging on, bleeding.
Yeah, I was like, we gotta leave because it's an incident I should be reporting.
I think we went in there just to like have a few drinks, play darts.
Yes.
And then and then we kept going to the malt house.
Yeah, it's probably
because that was safer. Like, it was not safer, but like, because it wasn't unsafe. Like, it was a little more desolate in that part of Yonkers.
Yeah. It was an experience. MSA, there are definitely developmental problems that come in our future. Toddler kids need to see faces to recognize emotions and see how words are pronounced. Listen, my prediction, and I hope to God this is wrong, but the problems that we have with social media right now, because you can see my face, right? You saw before when I was getting emotional talking about 9/11. You can see me now talking about incidents and I'm smiling. You can see it in my eyes. You can see it in my... But we're going to have the issues that we have with social media where people just see words and they don't see the intent behind it. They don't see the emotions behind it. They don't see this person's joking. The
glint in the eye.
They don't see any of that shit. Yeah. These kids from the last 2 years are going to either do one of two things, and it's going to be interesting to see. Either this generation is going to have an ability to see beyond the mask and get a better chance of reading social media and get a better chance of reading eyes, or this generation is going to have lost the ability to read faces, even with the mask off. Some of them might. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm not making a prediction one way or the other, but it's going to be.
Well, I guess it could be dependent on the kid. If the kid has some sort of like special emotional intelligence that they are able to read small indicators through someone's eyes. I don't know if there are. I don't know how many kids that would fall into that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
James, I can't imagine living in New York. Way different culture than flyover country. Yes. And now listen, Rach and I spent a lot of time up in the Poconos. I spent my time up in the Poconos since I was a wee lad. And it's a different atmosphere. It's a different speed that things move at. It's much more relaxed. And at the same time, in a lot of ways, it's a lot less intimate. Mm-hmm. Because in my neighborhood, I walk down a block and I'll see a neighbor, and even the neighbors that you don't recognize, because we've not a complaint, just an acknowledgement that my neighbor's gone very Chinese in the last generation. They still say hi and they smile as they walk.
Yes, they'll help you shovel your walk.
Yeah. Whereas in the Poconos, well, maybe because we are the New Yorkers, our immediate neighbors certainly know us and all that stuff, and some others that are transplants.
And they'll say hi and stuff.
A lot of the transplants, a lot of the non-locals will acknowledge you, but people that have been in town for a generation or two often won't because you're from New York. So it's an interesting way to think about it. I must say, everyone I've met from New York City states the best thing about it is knowing where you stand. Like, everyone is super upfront. Is this true?
Yeah.
More so than other places. Generally. It's not a universal statement, and there is still a lot of like passive aggressive shit that goes on.
Yeah.
But again, my experience is that in places like in the Poconos, complete strangers, you go shopping, they're probably more polite up in the Poconos. Honest to God, Pocono Mountains, Northeast PA. But if you want, like, people talk about like New York City and like people are going to step over you if you fall down. Not my experience. People stop.
Oh no, people will, want to give you a seat on the train. Yeah. Like when I walk into the train, not every time, but quite often, somebody will get up and say, "Oh, come sit here," and you're like, "Oh, well, thank you," and make sure that they know that it's appreciated. Right. I think that goes a long way.
But are New Yorkers more opinionated?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And also, like, even in the bars, like, you'll have conversations, and then someone that you don't know might sort of, oh, well, my experience of that, because you might be having a conversation, the bartender's involved, and then that sort of indicates, okay, well, since the bartender's involved, maybe that's more of an open, there's openings there to be able to, put your 2 cents in, but that happens a lot too.
James Seymour, Dirty Harry or Barney Miller? Barney Miller, by far one of the most realistic police shows, especially for New York City. You will find, if you can find it, only on for one season.
Really?
Not Barney Miller. If you can find it, The Job. Dennis Leary, before he did Rescue Me.
Yeah.
The Job, if you know New York City cops, if you know New York City detectives that worked a precinct squad room, this was the job that I was on at the turn of the century.
Yeah, that was back in the time when you were, in the 4-1 or something.
Yeah. I was in the 4-1 at the time.
Because I remember that was
now, if you want,
like late 90s, I think it was from.
If you want a time capsule that, believe it or not, is fairly accurate, Fort Apache, the Bronx, all filmed on location. The outdoor scenes were filmed in the 4-2 precinct. The outdoor scenes at the precinct, like when they're doing a riot, when they're storming the command, that's the outdoor of the 4-2 precinct. That was my original command in the South Bronx. Then the rest of the stuff happened in the 4-1 precinct, which I worked in the new 4-1 building, but it was covered the same area. And there's a lot of landmarks that I recognize. In some places, some of the shots they used were all South Bronx shots, but they were different commands. The bar scene, the inside bar scene was Schlitz's. That was in a 4-0, but they filmed it in a 4-2. Oh, I forget the name of the Spanish. The outdoor scenes with a Spanish restaurant bar up in the 4-2 precinct. which they were nice to cops that were stuck on a foot post out in the middle of nowhere. You go in there and you could eat for $4 and they give you free soda. And they were happy to have cops in uniform sitting in the back. It kept the riffraff down. So, being default aggressive is fine as long as it's channeled appropriately. Dedication, tenacity come from this. Yeah, I don't think that New Yorkers are necessarily aggressive. I do think that New York
maybe aggressive meaning extremely persistent and very clear about the intention, right. Especially in sales and things like that. Like when my father moved the family to Connecticut, that was a lot of the feedback, just very aggressive New York sales kind of because he was in sales, and that was the feedback a lot because you had to have a different style to be able to get your foot in the door here.
And here's the thing too: when we say New York City, as a New York City resident, when I refer to New York City, I'm referring to Manhattan. Okay, when we say I'm going to the city, I'm going to Manhattan, because the pace of Manhattan is different than the outer boroughs. When you talk about the pace of Manhattan, and Rach worked in Manhattan for a while, I worked in Manhattan for a while. Everywhere you walk is fast, 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 fast.
Yes.
You come out to Queens, and it's a much slower pace, and then you're walking at a slower pace. And when I was in college, I had a political science instructor. I loved the guy. He was great making observations, and he was telling us.
And he was right.
He goes, if you look at buses in Manhattan, nobody queues up. Nobody forms a line to get on the bus. Everybody mobs. Everybody steps up.
They didn't do it in the Bronx either. It was like who first.
Right. In Manhattan
to make it to the door.
He goes, but if you want the Q60 bus, which had one stop in Manhattan, it was a bus that went the length of Queens and ended one stop into Manhattan. He goes, the Q60 bus. He goes, you look at the Q60 bus stop in Manhattan, and you tell me what the difference is. The difference was people queued up. They got online. And first come was first and last was last, as opposed to every other Manhattan bus stop where everybody's like, oh, I'm just going to step up and step in.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Queens is definitely a more orderly borough.
The clean, the spot in the 4 to 12. We went to the Barry Inn because it was in the confines of the 4-1. No longer exists. Or something else now, but it didn't exist for a number of years. I think kids will recognize actions over words. Deep fakes are quickly rendering media video as untrustworthy, and that is true. And
so that's actually a good thing.
Well,
no,
it
like
is
to be able to pick out what's genuine. Well, but
that's not. It's assuming everything isn't genuine, and that.
Oh, I see. Yeah. He's saying cynicism is more common among younger people.
Evil cheese. You do misses the dirty water dogs on the corner. I can still avoid those. The pretzel with mustard on a cold day. Oh God, the one that used to be by the cemetery. Haven't seen them since COVID hit.
Oh, but they had super pretzels, I think.
That's okay. It was so nice. They weren't bad. Bacon, egg, and cheese with a Spanish coffee in the Bronx. By the way, we do get our hot dogs, but we get them from the best hot dog truck in the city.
Yeah, the bacon, egg, and cheese at Bustelo.
Oh, yeah. I used to enjoy those too. Yes, seriously, MSA, the job. It is. There are stories there that they detail that I'd already heard of happening before I came on the job. So whoever was writing that, the writers of it, were digging deep into Bronx PD lore. In
really, Bronx.
It doesn't take place in the Bronx. I believe it takes place in Manhattan.
Yeah, like but the Upper West or something.
Yeah, but the stuff the command does were stories that we heard of from about Bronx PDU commands. So I found that very interesting.
And then when we would talk to John, like because he was a couple of generations before Eric on the job, one of our friends, he was talking about like how remember that episode where they just kept dumping the body in the next command?
Yeah. And listen,
he described it. I was like, "Hey, sounds familiar."
Evil cheese. I was over in Hunts Point. I started out in the 4-2, which was on 159 and Washington Avenue. and then Washington in third, and then I went to the 4-1. So we had Hunts Point. Yes, I got there as the cattle drives were coming to a close, and that's when you could take 2 patrol cars, go deep into the point, like 2 a.m., turn on the lights and sirens, and then all the prostitutes would scurry like roaches in a really dingy apartment. It was quieting down. We were a unit that came in to clear up the drugs, which we did, and then we cleared up the prostitution, which we did, and then they didn't need us, so they cut the unit down from 32 to 6.
I guess because all the prostitution started to go indoors.
It started going out to Long Island City. There was a triangle.
Oh.
Hunts Point, Long Island City, and Newark. They used to rotate their prostitutes at the time through these 3 areas, and that became a federal case because they included Newark.
But were they still sort of like on the streets, or were they?
Oh, they were still on the streets. They wanted to keep
not for brothels.
They wanted to have fresh stock on the street, so they rotated them through 3 different areas in the metropolitan area. So you'd go and go, oh, look, new girls. You kept it.
So it's Hunters Point.
Hunters Point in Long Island City. Hunts Point.
Yeah.
And deep in the point. Folks, if you ever, I don't know if HBO still has it. You might have to find it.
You might find it on YouTube.
The Hose of Hunts Point. I knew.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the Hose of Hunts Point.
Oh.
And I actually knew a few of those that showed up there. The school teacher. She put her kids through college doing that job. So, rather than ask a political question, I arrived late again. How went the checkup, James? The checkup. Well, it was. I'll give you the quick rundown. It was a surprise for my surgeon. My surgeon went into it with the idea of it's likely nothing. I don't expect to find anything, but if I do find something, I'll fix it. And then he went in and he found that yes, one of my 4 stents was blocked. Wasn't causing an issue. That's the great part about it. My stent was blocked and my heart had compensated, but he cleared it anyway. But they found out that my main left artery was 70% occluded. So they stented that. So as my surgeon said afterwards, seriously explaining everything he did, finished it with it went fucking awesome. So when your surgeon can drop the F-bomb, and I've been on the table where I've heard surgeons drop the shit bomb, that wasn't a good experience. When they go, it was fucking awesome, and he's happy about it, then I feel pretty good. So Trove is. I don't think Trove is back up. Trove is down.
What does that mean, Trove?
Trove is the place where you could find everything and anything that had ever been produced anywhere.
Oh.
And it go long gone. Bye bye. It's been hit. There are rumors as to it might have been an RPG publisher that had the Trove taken down. At least as far as RPGs are going, it would move from country to country where they would have their servers. So. Oh, the default aggressive comment was in response to you explaining your personal temperament. Again, I am for the most part, I am perceived, I should say, for the most part, as a pushover. I think that's why certain people read me wrong. And it's like, oh, I can, if I make this threat, Tenkar is going to walk away with his tail between his legs. I've never been that way, but after being a cop, I certainly am not that way. Threats to me is just tells me that again, doesn't matter who we're talking about. This started with Gail Gygax, who hit me with the threats of legal action. When you start hitting me with threats or try to intimidate me, it just tells me there's meat in the bone. All right, it's like, oh, I don't have to suck the marrow out of this one. There's meat. There's something that you don't want me to get. So my response to threats has always been that way. Immunity deepfakes that tangible things in a local community will mean more. I hope it will translate to more local political involvement. I would like to see that too. I want to see people going out to these community board meetings and local Rach and I have been involved in local protests already.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing quite like getting foot traffic out. You send an email to somebody, it doesn't mean shit. Okay, you send an email to your senator, your congressman, your state representative, whoever the hell you're sending your, they don't care. Okay, you can get an automatic response back. You send a paper letter, they might care, or at least they'll care
Right.
slightly.
They send back the form response when you, because I signed petitions a bit, especially when the city was like closed down and no like yoga spaces could open um, for like more than a year. It was like a year and a half already. And, we had seen, social distancing and things were getting better with the vaccine and everything.
Right.
So, it was like, well, if they practice on their mat with if they stay on their mat, 6 feet apart from the other mats and they wear their mask in the studio or whatever, why can't they be open?
Right.
People's businesses, livelihoods were really suffering. And, so yeah, a lot of us signed petitions for these spaces to be able to open again, for people to tend to their health and well-being. And, they just sort of, your I think that when you do the petition online, it goes to it went to Chuck Schumer, it went
They
to
don't care.
Grace Meng. Schumer didn't care. Meng,
She didn't give a shit either.
not really. And then I still get emails from her though
about now you're on the mailing list
about all these COVID
That's
stuff.
what
I'm like, great, I'm on the mailing list.
You're on the mailing list, right? You accomplished something.
Yeah,
You're on a politician's mailing list.
They have my name now.
Evil Cheese. I think the thing with Gail is that she is somebody who bit off more than she could actually handle. And then I knew there was a huge issue when she offered to and promised. She promised to have an accounting done of all the monies, and then she was going to publish it on Facebook. And then, like 2 weeks later, her Facebook is scrubbed, including that promise.
Oh wow!
So
you screenshot all that.
I screenshot everything. That's just all of you when it comes to anything online. If you think something is going to pop up later, it might change. Screenshot it.
You can always delete it later.
Yeah, come on. You got the hard drive space. It's always amazing to be awake on a table. The doc has instruments in near your heart. Modern medicine can be a good thing.
Wow.
I swear. Listen, my first 2 times they gave me a little local, like a little happy gas, kind of like we're gonna take the edge off.
No, they would need to give a lot because I can't control my. I don't think I'll be able to control my behavior. If I hear something,
what the hell is that?
Like, get out of here! No.
No, they gave me nothing. I mean, other people in the pre-op are being given like a pill or two of Valium, right? Me, they must have records of me. Like, oh yeah,
and those guys already took. They probably already took their Klonopin before they came, and still got more.
Yeah, MSA. It's infuriating when people mistake common courtesy for weakness. Yeah, and and actually being courteous is a strength because you have to be courteous. You have to have strength of your own character, right? You can, if you don't have strength of character and actually
humility is also
it doesn't
a sign of a healthy.
Doesn't mean that you're a pushover.
Yeah,
it just means that you hopefully have a healthy worldview, a healthy way of interacting with people. And some people lack that. Yeah. James, I bet my doctors could define the word woman. Oops, let it out. All right, yeah, seen that too. I saw a couple videos on it. I had a good laugh.
Yeah,
I had a good laugh. Listen, that's one of those things where I understand. It's like they gave me the ground ball that I can't give a good answer to without pissing off 50% here or 50% there.
So she was like, I'm not doing this.
I don't have a degree in biology. All right. So yeah. James, that was entertaining. I appreciate it. Thank you.
She did with that just what she could.
Yep. Nothing compares to an a-hole with a microphone on the sidewalk for protesting. Listen, we live in New York City. We have a-holes with microphones that aren't protesting. You know, so
some of them are sort of trying to get out the word of God and
God help you, Rachie. God help you. Tenkar, there are a lot of tool scripts to auto archive screenshot stuff. Might save you time if you can figure them out. I would love to hear more about that. Maybe you can PM me later, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, listen, I use StreamYard for this because I know that OBS is probably free and can do more bells and whistles and all the other stuff. But this is a system that I figured out how to use, and I can do it with minimal thinking as I'm running this stuff. And I tried using OBS, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago when I first started thinking about doing a YouTube channel, and it was a nightmare. A nightmare, I tell you. Yeah, she screwed up more. But that's, you know what? Honestly, it was a gotcha question because there was no answer that was going to satisfy more than 50%. Her answer could satisfy less than 50%. In the split Senate, that was one of those questions that's like, oh, there's no way to fucking fine tune. There's no way I can walk the line. Well, you see, how I see a woman is, there's no way to walk that line. You either got to take a stand or you got to take a stand. And either way, she's going to piss off half the chamber.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her for not answering.
I don't blame her at all.
But I do find it entertaining. Let's see. Yeah, sometimes you have to laugh at them and carry on with the comments on Facebook at all. You know what? Again, here's the thing with social media. Okay, and I've mentioned this before. I'll mention this again. People often forget that you're dealing with actual people on the other side of that screen. Okay. Have I forgotten? I'm sure I have. Okay. Some people forget more often than others.
Sure.
But, and it's a way to, and I'm having my wine. There's no secret to that, right? But when you have beer muscles, right? We always call them beer muscles. You have a bit too much to drink, you got beer muscles. Liquid courage. This anonymity behind the keyboard with the whole. I remember for a while it was always punch a Nazi. There were people that were banned from Facebook, permanently banned. They've come back as themselves with a new account, but their prior account was banned because they were threatening to punch a Nazi, right? And they were calling everybody who disagreed with them as basically a Nazi. It's like accusing anybody who disagrees with you as being woke, right?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
We see it from all political perspectives and all political extremes. And anybody who tries to be anywhere near that middle gets accused of what? I've been accused of being a Nazi sympathizer, and I've been accused of being woke. I've been accused of banning people from the internet for them being woke. I mean, I or anti-woke. Actually, I had both. So, I mean,
but that's a pretty powerful accusation.
I don't have the authority.
Ban somebody from the internet. It's a pretty big space. Yep. Maybe it's just your corner of it, but
yeah. So, I mean, these are all things. But again, it's the forgetting that there are other people on the other side of the screen. And yes, here. Let me do I have our email as God, I probably don't have our email up as one of the banners. tencars.tavern@gmail.com. Again, tencars.tavern@gmail.com. Probably the best. It's the one email where I don't get much spam at. I mean, I do get spam, but it's all spam related to gaming and a lot of stuff that's about video game releases and embargoed information that I can't share until a certain date. Like, I give a flying. I don't play video games. Own them, I don't play them. So Yes, Justin is a person. I mean, a raptor on the other side of the screen. Yeah.
Nice.
What,
I like that.
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I've probably said this before, but I come into what I do with the acknowledgement that I'm going to piss people off, probably personally, probably largely and intensely, and they may do things that the average person might not do, and maybe that includes doxing me. I think doxing is
Or
wrong.
me.
Well, no, let me get to that. So I think doxing is wrong, but like sending me like fake shit in the mail, um, I accept on some level, just like a police officer, you accept on some level that you're going to take certain risks, right? But when you take those risks and all of a sudden you make it, oh, I'm going to dox Tenkar's wife, his sister-in-law, his mother, and then you've turned it into something different, okay? And you've pretty much lost the narrative, whatever narrative you were trying to build. Before it was like, oh,
Right.
Tenkar's an evil piece of shit, and it becomes, oh, and then these innocent people. Like I had a phone
Yeah,
call.
it's interesting, right? Because it's like, okay, well, where's the evil behavior?
Yeah,
The evil behavior is on his side, and
if you go to my video from December 25th, and I did a video with my niece. Okay, it was Gamers Health. Just me and Shannon did it. The family celebration was still going on. Rach was fully engaged, and in the comments later that night, Justin goes apeshit about me on the video with my niece. Now, inappropriate. I mean, he could have torn me a new asshole on a video where I did it about him, and that makes a lot of sense. I might not
right,
like
you would
it.
understand.
I would
And be
understand
like,
it.
okay.
But Christmas night, you're tearing apart a video I do with my niece, not because of her, because you think I'm a piece of shit. Your timing is rough. Your whole,
There's a lot off.
There's a whole whatever your meter is now. Since we're talking about being off, I'm going to share something, and we do Gamers Health. All right, we talk about the health of gamers. So, and since we're talking about TSR, I'm going to step into this one. Okay. So now this is Dave Johnson. Okay, Dave Johnson announced last week that he had COVID and had been hospitalized apparently for COVID for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And here's the thing: I wish nobody ill health. I've been through
No.
enough ill health myself. I wish it on nobody. Okay. And I always say when it comes to COVID, use your common sense. I'm not going to have to say this at the end of this episode. Okay. I always tell you, I'm not big on masks. I'm not big on mandating immunizations. But here, we're going to listen to Dave. Hold on if I can get it going.
Few things. I'll be checking that out as soon as I feel better. But right now, I'm real shaky and weak. So it's the first time I've been out since I've been sick. So today. So, all right, guys. Leave your comments. If you don't, you know, whatever questions you have, please direct them to me, and I will be happy to answer them as the best of my ability. Thank you for your support, and I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks.
All right. So
He doesn't sound well at all.
he doesn't sound well at all. So now Dave is apparently, and this is posted today. He's talking about how he's not at TSR Con. Thank God he's not at TSR Con. Okay, because again, COVID. And he's talking about how Star Frontiers New Genesis is going to be released in April, which kind of conflicts with these going to be released at the con, but neither here nor there. He's out in a public place. It looks like he's at a restaurant. I never understood the bullshit that if you go to a restaurant and you're eating, you don't need to wear a mask, but if you step away, you need to wear a mask. I never understood that. It was bizarre. But he just told us he's not feeling well. He's still feeling shaky. And he's at a restaurant. And this is a common sense fail in my eyes. And again, whether he's suffering from COVID or the flu or pneumonia, if you're not feeling well, if you are feeling shaky, I understand the desire to get out there and do something. Go for a walk. All right, go for a walk. Go to a place with a lot of open spaces.
Yeah.
Don't go to a confined area in a restaurant and expose people to whatever it is that you may be suffering from. I don't get it. That to me, I mean, listen, and I've already been accused of being an anti-vaxxer from somebody in the community because I don't believe in vax mandates. Well, I believe in common fucking sense. Okay, and what we just saw on that video is not common fucking sense. What's better to play in wide, Tenkar Gibber or Tenkar? Tenkar Gibber looks a lot more powerful than a fish. Listen, if they had...
Hey, the fish theme is working. Why didn't they go with a flounder?
They could have gone with a flounder. They had gone with a flounder. It would 10. What's he? 10?
Because that was the nickname at work.
10 flounder doesn't work.
10 flounder.
Flound, or I don't know. Yes, he made it personal with me, and I think you have a big dog in that fight. Some people, though, on the Facebook page, I swear, are obsessed. But here's the thing: it's not. I don't believe it's not as much obsession as it is seeing somebody who has been promising for close to 2 years to put out product and never put out anything.
It's been that long.
It's been it's getting close to it. It's been close to 2 years. And has antagonized the community. See, that's the problem, which I don't think you probably haven't seen. So, Evil Cheese. But if you've seen how Justin responds to questions like, "Hey, when's Sovereignteers coming out?" or "Who's writing it?" and he goes, "Oh, if you can ask these questions, you can basically go fuck yourself," which is what a lot of his responses.
How dare you question?
How dare you question us? Here, he's blocked so many people from these different communities, and he spams so many communities. He does himself no favor. Okay, so I think therein lies the issue. Justin, again, I'm a New Yorker. I know what it's like to be in somebody's fucking face. Justin is coming from. I've been told this, so it's secondhand knowledge. Well, part of it's firsthand knowledge. We know he's from the tattoo world. I've told it's also the bikers world. And it's a different world when you come from that type of a background, right? Where everything is about in your face, force, who's got the biggest penis. I mean, when I first started interacting with Justin, he sent me a video of him driving a tank and goes, "Beat that." And I went, "I'm not out here to measure penises, dude."
Beat your own, dude.
But really, I'm not. I don't care. You own a tank. You know what? I have no place to park it in New York City, and it gets horrible gas mileage. I don't want a tank. He's like, "I ran for political office again."
Oh wow, and you lost.
Can you say that? I
Horribly.
was like, "No," but I did 20 years as a civil servant. Can you say that? No. What are we measuring? So, but again, the attitude of how you deal with your community, in this case, tattoo artists, tattoo people, and bikers, and how you deal with the old school gaming community are different communities. It's different dynamics. So I can understand, yes, he made it personal with me, but that's besides the point because he's made it personal with others. Jason Elliott, he fucking scammed that TSR TM. He found out from Ernie that it was had somebody forgotten to renew it, and Ernie should have been like, "Hey, Jason, since we worked together at TSR and I was part of that team, hey, you got to do this." Instead, it's like, dude, scam it, man, take it. So it's an attitude. You know what? It's what I would expect from in the late 90s. A crackhead. It was that kind of mentality.
Oh, a perp mentality.
It's a perp mentality of what's in it for me and what do I do to get mine. And, I found this wallet. Well, you know who it belongs to? It belongs to your neighbor. Oh, fuck that shit. It's got $20 in it and a credit card.
It doesn't even matter that somebody's looking.
Right. No, doesn't make a difference. So
that moral.
So that is kind of my perspective and why I understand why others who might not be as personally involved will go again. You don't know if they've been ridiculed or blocked by Justin in the past. A lot of them have. The list is long. I mean, I'm not going to compile it because I really couldn't care. But the list is long. Yeah, when we go on a Facebook group, I laugh it off or whatever. But if somebody goes after my family, like Nanasi did to you, yeah, that's when it gets ugly. I married a cop's wife because Rach knew me. I was a cop. It wasn't she was coming to a relationship.
I worked with cops. I knew,
She knew the culture.
Yeah.
And she knew that I was who I was and who I am. And she knew what to expect. And I met her and I went, wow, she could actually.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to counsel them before I got one.
Yes. I got one that wasn't a broken toy, one that supervised broken toys. I'm not going to say that when I was supervising broken toys that we shared any of the broken toys. But we certainly knew people in certain supervisory units that overlapped.
Yeah.
James Seymour, I stay home until the elevated temperature, hot, cold cycle, stomach pain is over. If you're still shaky on your feet, right? If you're still saying, I'm still fucking sick.
It's like, let's go film at Friendly's, Yeah. Like, how does that work?
It's like what the fuck, man? I mean, thank you for not going to the con. Yeah, Kickstarter. You got burnt. Kickstarter is what started me on this path of researching this stuff. I used to do a list, and it got too long. But I used to do a list of the overdue Kickstarters, and I used to get some angry fucking PMs. Holy shit! Do you know why my Kickstarter is late? You never bothered to reach out. I go, dude, I backed it. You're at the 6-month point.
To forget it. If I backed any of that stuff, it would be gone.
They're 2 days late. Where the hell?
Where's my stuff?
Where's my shit at? Exactly. Or anything. The Robotech Kickstarter. How about anything from Ken Whitman? D20 Entertainment. Come on. If you back for pencils, he was shipping out single pencils.
I won't even do pre-sale at Macy's. I'm like, I'll come on the day then. If I can't get the discount now.
MSA is one thing to fail, it's another.
I'm not waiting for it.
No, to act like an entitled brat when called out. I've you know what? People get defensive. I understand it. Listen, I've had people wonder why are you so harsh on Ernie? Harsh on Ernie?
On Ernie.
Ernie. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with Ernie. Okay, his Kickstarter was way fucking long in the tooth. All right, and he needed to get saved by an outside company to get it produced. Wasn't for lack of funds. I knew the funds were there. Ernie had shown me the funds. Good business sense in that he put it into a commercial business account for the bank, and the money was there. He showed me the receipts. I knew it was there. I could say it was there. But when he washed his hands of actual production of it and put it into Benoit's hands and then put it into the Troll Lord's hands, I was beginning to lose a little respect. Now, not a secret, Ernie went through a medical time when he was going through beating his habit. He was going through withdrawal. Rach, who at the time was the director of a drug and alcohol treatment program, gave him a list of medications his doctors should look at as alternatives to what they were talking about prescribing, because what he was talking about being prescribed, he couldn't afford because his insurance wasn't covered.
It was a 3-time-a-day thing, and that gets pricey if you don't have, coverage to do it. And, so something that he could be able to buy less pills and have coverage for, the day was perfect.
Yeah. So Ray said that, and again, Ernie was grateful. That's all fun and dandy. Ernie got involved in this Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum / TSR, and I understand Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum is a dream, a lifelong dream of Ernie's. I understand that. My understanding is how they met. They met at a convention somewhere, and Ernie and Justin hit it off, and then Justin was the money man. Justin has investments. And Justin was like, oh, wow, look, if that house goes for sale, we can buy it. And it went for sale, so they bought it right before COVID.
Now, was this physical space where the hobby shop
This is the first building that they used TSR, the original TSR, the old TSR.
Oh, okay. So it does have
historical.
The home has
yeah.
Okay.
And the Dungeon Hobby Shop was the mail order part of the business that Ernie ran, and for the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, the Dungeon Hobby Shop was their mail order program back then. So I understand why Ernie got suckered into this. I understand it. That does when you get sucked into this shit, right? and you don't look at it and go, oh, well, let's see. I kind of treated Eric, not as a good friend, but I kind of treated Eric Tenkar as a friend. Oh, wait, you're sending fake shit to his house. I know he knows. Oh, you're doxing him, because we all know Mario77 and the old Mario Gomez on Facebook are Justin. You can't hide it, Justin. We know it's you. Your fine use of an app doesn't change the fact that it's still you.
Yeah. Good call on the Grammarly, Eric.
I listen. I use
he
Grammarly.
Actually sounds halfway literate.
Yeah, we suggested it. We suggested it to him, Mike and I. So I'm glad to see that Justin's actually going for it. Again, as Evil Cheese knows, when you're a cop, particularly if you get trained as an investigator, certain things are not too hard to figure out when all the lines match up. So, but my problem with Ernie is that Ernie knows all this shit is going on, and Ernie doesn't say, "Dude, stop it. Dude, cut it out." And the fact that Ernie is working, last I heard, now this might have changed, but last I heard, Ernie was associated with TSR on a verbal contract only. So that's puts you in a bad spot, right? Because the moment somebody says, "Oh, well, you're fucking with me," all right, well, you're no longer executive vice president, go pound sand. You're no longer part of TSR. You're no longer part of the museum. So he's in a horrible spot.
It's a precarious
spot.
Yeah.
Because he takes this dream, which is at this point becoming a nightmare, and puts it over even relationships with his own family, from what I've seen. So, but neither here nor there. I used to play video games with a keyboard warrior type. He was screaming all this nonsense at me until I reminded him I was twice his size and knew where he lived. Grew up to be Lanasa. Or that's actually pretty funny.
I like that.
But again, COVID has done a lot of fucked. I don't think, honestly, that this shit would have happened to the extent that it happened with TSR and the Dungeon Shop Museum if we didn't have COVID. Because if we hadn't had COVID, the museum would have opened up on time.
Maybe would have done. You feel like it had the potential to take off.
It had the potential to be something. I don't know about taking off. It had the potential to be something. And instead, COVID hit and literally shut that place down for like an extra year and a half. And that is, if the business not making money, you get desperate. Desperate times calls for desperate measures.
Sure.
I can have empathy without having sympathy. I can understand the motives.
You can look at another person's point of view and kind of understand, how they're moving or what they're saying and doing.
Yep. So, I mean, I can see how a lot of this happened. I can see how the chips fell as they did. Props to Zilla Games. This is from James. As I understand, he paid back the first backers when the Arcanum went south, regrouped, and made it good second time around. That's a rare. A lot of times, these Kickstarters produce nothing. Far West, you are now so long in the tooth that it's over 10 years, and still nothing. I think that was like 2 nights before our wedding that Rach took our photo that was supposed to be in the book, and one of me with an infamous red hands because. I'm sorry. Listen, I guess. I guess Far West.
All the grudges are coming out.
I guess Far West never shipping might be a good thing because we've had a good marriage. Who knows? Yeah. When it ships, it might be like, oh my God, this came out now. Our marriage must come to an end.
I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, it can just.
Let them keep that shit.
Yes, James, like insurance is a good reason I have my job. State policy lessens medical costs, and that is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. Listen. I was a cop for 20 years. Part of being a cop for 20 years was guaranteed health insurance until I reached Medicare age. For me and my spouse. And if we had dependents, they would be carried until whatever the age is now, 18, 23, 27, hike. I think
it's 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was close. So, I mean, yeah. But it's weird. You had to stay for 10 years to guarantee the health insurance, but would only kick in at 20. So really you had to stay for 20 if you wanted to.
Walk with your insurance.
Yeah.
Sure.
You would choose. Yeah, people talk the same, use the same phrases, etc. Yeah, all Grammarly does is it cleans up your spelling, but there's still some improper stuff going on that you can kind of look at and go, That and the fact that I have it on good authority that Justin used Grammarly to edit printed products.
Oh,
so that's the editor that I want. Who should proofread the stuff that I'm going to ask money for? Mr. Grammarly, I presume. So, my MSA, COVID has definitely caused everyone to go a little crazy, but it's not an excuse to treat others as lesser expendable. It's why newest TSR and NASA are losing what's left of their brand's integrity. There was never.
Yeah.
Here's all right. So
it's kind of dead ending.
So here I'm going to tell a little story. I can't name sources, although I do have two. So it's independently two sources, and I would never with just one source, even one that I know personally. I'd be like, yeah, this is two sources that I know personally. Two sources state that when they rented cars in Lake Geneva and asked where they were going, and they went, "Oh, we're going to GaryCon. It's a D&D convention." Oh, well, did you know that the guy who invented Dungeons and Dragons just rented a car Tuesday?
Wow, that's amazing. That's a miracle, to be honest.
So either Gary has come
he
back.
He done died, right?
He done died. And so either Gary came back from the grave, or, and this is actually what I suspect. I suspect that he didn't say person in question, who I cannot name because we don't know exactly who it is. But I'm going to assume that the person did not say, I invented Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to assume the person said, oh, yeah, I own the company that invented Dungeons and Dragons. I suspect that was the real phrase that was used. So that, to me, as somebody who has often had to go by the rule book, but not the intention of the rule book, sounds like something that, well, I never said I invented it. I own the company that invented Dungeons and Dragons. TSR that established now.
Delusion.
Could have been, but I don't know. I
thought he's done a lot of stuff. So,
James, actually, my cholesterol is extremely good. I have to worry about it. So I take what do I take? Ezetimibe,
Zetia and
Lipitor, and I take over-the-counter supplement cholesterol, and I take CoQ10. And my cholesterol numbers have been spot on. I probably need to eat some more McDonald's to bring up my better numbers. It's a joke. It's a joke. I heard Rach.
No.
But she's like, but McDonald's, maybe for a good day. Folks, holy crap. Listen, we are actually nearing an hour and 45 minutes. Holy shit. This is what a great live stream crowd can do for you. It makes your time. CoQ10. Fish oil stinks though. but the CoQ10, I take cholesterol, which may or may not work, but the CoQ10, my cardiologist recommends it too. So, but yes, we should we wrap up, right? Should we wrap up? Sure, darling. So listen, again, thank you for all the kind words and the good thoughts and prayers. I take them all. I am not a perfect person. I'm not perfect when it comes to who I am. In my soul, there's definitely imperfections. How I live my life, I'm sure there are imperfections. How I try to lead a healthy life, I could do more. I certainly could.
Yeah.
But the strive should always be to improve yourself. As long as you're improving yourself, you're on the right path. It's the best way to go. My by the way, donuts, hot metabolism. My little hash on N-World used to be coppers and crullers, because donuts had too much. The crullers always had the hard sugar on it, the granular sugar, not the powdered
well, it was
sugar.
like it was hollow inside.
Yeah. So, MSA, you are very welcome. I will be happy to look forward to your email. You never know, might be a great assistance for me. Everybody else, again, huge thanks. This is what makes this channel great. Again, it's community. And whether you say you're part of the community or not, you fucking are. Evil Cheese. I did 6 to 2s, 6 to 2 a.m. for a good portion of my career. Did 10 to 6s for another good portion of my career, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 to 3s as a patrol sergeant, and then as an sergeant IA, did mostly either 6 to 2s in the morning, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sorry, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 10 to 6s. I ended out with 4 to 12s and midnights. So those were interesting hours to work. The midnights I did for 6 months, and I swear to God, it took me about 4 years to totally kill that clock. I no longer have my sleepless nights for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I would have sleepless nights.
Where it took a lot to shake that.
It would be random, like 2 months, no, not an issue. And all of a sudden, one night, I can't sleep. I just be up to 6 a.m. watching. Then a glass of wine and some cheese, and I go to sleep.
Right in the morning when I arrive home.
Yeah.
And I'd be leaving out to work.
Yeah. So again, folks, thank you much. We're not going to go over the COVID shit we already have.
Yeah.
Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well. I will be back tomorrow with another update to probably the 2 conventions that are going on right now. See where they stand. And other than that, Monday, the Lanasaraptor. You can still get your cut.
Wait,
I punted it to Monday because I can't do it tomorrow because Scargill, and then and I really can't type too much at my.
Yeah, I guess too much happens here. Yeah.
So we're going to announce the winners and giving away more than just a $50 prize on Monday. So you still have time for an entry.
You put something in there that they know?
Yeah, I did an update today. A general update.
Okay, because yeah.
All right.
And I forgot about the Raptors contest.
Well, I didn't.
Not about it altogether, but associating with Gamers Health.
Yeah, I didn't know I'd have a hole in my groin
and a hole in your
in
your radial artery.
So treat it like it's broken. Thank God I'm a lefty. All right, folks. Laters.
Thank you.